Hey, true crime fanatics, this is Claire.
And I'm Andy.
You're tuned in to the Homicide Hobbies podcast, which is a podcast for people who love to hear about the horrendous crimes that people commit. Enjoy. We gotta get this show pony on the road.
You're going to have to pay attention on this case.
Like I need a pen and paper.
If you take some brief notes, it might help you.
Regarding underwear?
Your special needs sometimes. Where did Dave grow up in Texas?
Fort Worth.
Oh.
Why? It's in Texas, huh?
No, I was just asking a question.
That was convincing. Then where are we going to be today?
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to remember your own case?
So our where is going to be in a small town that was founded in 1901 by John Alexander Dowie.
All right.
John Dowie was a pioneer of Pentecostalism. The state is known as the Prairie State because of its vast prairie lands.
Prairie. Iowa?
The state bird is the northern cardinal.
I thought the cardinal was Virginia.
The state flower, the violet.
Definitely not Virginia. What's Virginia's?
Dogwood.
No, the bird.
A violet. Or
okay.
A cardinal.
They both have a cardinal?
Sure fucking do.
I thought it was a cardinal. But I didn't know it was also a violet.
This state also produces more nuclear energy than any other state.
Ohio.
We're going to be in Zion, Illinois.
So I was right.
What?
Oh, that was my other guess. I didn't say it out loud.
Sure. Then I'm right all the time. Good luck, Dave.
I was trying to figure out what when I said Illinois was what I thought it, but I was like, I really don't know that I've driven through Illinois. So is it prairie?
Apparently. All right. So our when is May 8th, 2005. More specifically, it'll be Mother's Day.
Is that important, or you're just giving me a tidbit?
Just a tidbit. I'm going to start by letting you know that this is a... Never mind. Fuck it.
Okay.
So I'm going to start by telling you about...
What year was it? Because you got all sidetracked with the Mother's Day thing.
2005. And you got sidetracked.
Your face hole got sidetracked because you weren't even finishing telling me the facts before you told me you weren't going to tell me the facts.
No, I said our when is May 8th, 2005, more specifically Mother's Day. Thank you very much. See, this is why I said you needed to take notes. Anyway, I'm going to start by telling you the history of a man named Jerry Brandon Hobbs III. Jerry was born in Wichita Falls, Texas. For most of his life, he lives there. He bounces back and forth. Some background on Jerry. His mother and stepfather live in a tiny brown home. There were 4 homes off of this gravel road.
How old is he?
I didn't tell you. These homes...
Well, you didn't say when he was born either.
Just listen. These homes were flanked by North Texas State Hospital, which is a mental institution, and Lake Wichita. And apparently the lake was too polluted for swimming or fishing, but that's where Jerry kind of grew up. Jerry loved the hard...
Whoa.
Jerry loved... Jeez, it's not loved. My done autocorrect says love, and it's supposed to be lived. He lived the hard life of a drifter, or he was a houseless person. He often would stay in broke down cars or broken sheds with plastic tarps for windows.
Like a raccoon.
Pretty much, yeah. He would occasionally stay with his mom and stepdad, but only for a few months here and there before they'd kick him out, because Jerry had a problem living by his mother's rules. He's a grown-ass man. He shouldn't have to follow his mama's rules. Jerry had a problem with his mom's rules. She was absurd and expected Jerry to abstain from drug use.
That bitch.
And she had the nerve to expect him to control his temper. Along with his temper and drug use, he also... surprise, surprise, would have an extensive criminal history going back to 1990 in Texas. I'm sure our male listeners will love to hear this, but Jerry's criminal record was a 6-inch thick file, and that's a lot. 6 inches?
You have problems. Just depends. Is it double spaced and back and front? What size font?
But seriously, for him being in his 20s, and having a 6-inch thick criminal history file. That is
Hold
insane.
up, you never said how old he was. So he's in his 60s in 2005?
If he's in his 20s in 1990, that's only 15 years,
I
ma'am.
thought you said the 60s just a second ago.
All right. Anyway, so if I had to compare Jerry's temper to something, I'd literally compare him to any natural disaster: volcano, tsunami, hurricane, tornado. You know, all of those fit Jerry. You know he's coming. And once the storm warnings are heard, you're just screwed. Everyone needs to clear out of his path of destruction. And there's literally nothing that can be done except to duck and cover and pray that you survive the storm of Jerry. And along with his drug use, he also would partake in the devil's juice more often than not, leading to him having a violent outburst.
Does he have mental issues? Because it sounds like he has mental issues.
As far as I'm aware, he does not.
Hmm.
But Jerry was a quick tempered feller, and his rage was usually followed by extreme violent outbursts. In 1990, when he started his criminal history, Jerry got irritated with his neighbor in the El Rey trailer park in Wichita Falls, Texas. A quick side note on El Rey Trailer Park. It wasn't a great area. I know that trailer parks kind of get stereotyped, but this is like probably where the stereotype originated from. One of the residents in the trailer park was beaten to death. Another woman died in a fire. A baby was once found dead there. The drug use, the drug deal, like it's just not a good place to go. Anyway, the neighbor that was irritating Jerry was a man named Stacy Townsend. And yes, Stacy is a dude, Adam's apple and all. Stacy was outside spinning the tires on his car, and Jerry was in a mood, went outside, pulled a knife from its sheath, and decided to stab Stacy in the gut.
Well, did he stop?
He did, and then he required some medical treatment.
I imagine a gut wound with a knife would.
Well, Jerry would unfortunately be arrested, but he lucked out and that case would be reduced to a misdemeanor.
What?
Yeah. And Jerry would only serve 60 days in jail for stabbing his neighbor?
Is this his first charge, or he had
Yeah.
other well, that could be why they were a little more lenient. Can I just say, though, I feel like whether it's your first charge or not, a stabbing seems pretty severe. You don't need just a 60-day timeout.
Especially because it's not like it was self-defense. He literally went outside and got stabby.
Like, if it were me who got stabbed, and I like to think it's a life goal to not, but
add that to our list.
I feel like if they were like, you know what, he's never stabbed anyone before, I'd be like, until now.
Right. I feel like it's something, especially I was disappointed that it was Texas.
Although, no, I take it back. I feel like I'd be like, good to know, when's he getting out?
Right? I don't know. I don't know that I could do the stabbing still.
I don't know.
Jerry would go on to be arrested 29 times from 1990 through 2003. Some of his arrests, prior to the one I'm going to tell you about, that happens in 2005, his other arrests were for drug violations, assault, resisting arrest, things like that. And in 1990, Jerry met a woman named Sheila Hollenbach, and they met in their trailer park. She had one child, a daughter from a previous relationship. The pair lived with Sheila's parents for a bit. The on and off couple soon had 3 children together. They had a son named Jerry IV, a daughter named Laura, and then another son named Jeremy. They were on and off, very tumultuous relationship, which I feel like isn't surprising when he's got substance abuse issues.
And anger issues.
Yeah. They broke up for the umpteenth time in like 2000, 2001-ish, after Jerry got drunk, lost his temper, and physically abused Sheila. And she was just sick and tired of the physical abuse. She put her foot down. She went and got a protective order against Jerry because she feared for her life and how volatile Jerry's temper could be. Aside from abusive, I would also say he's borderline stalker. So Sheila and her kids moved from the trailer park to a subsidized housing place, and then they moved into a house. So they were moving up in the world. The house she was renting was owned by her new boyfriend's mother. And the catch to this new situation, though, there was a broke down car in the backyard of Sheila's new residence. Jerry went ahead.
Oh, start sleeping in it?
Jerry went ahead and moved on in, not to the house, but to that broke down car in the backyard.
All right.
Right? A neighbor pointed out that was in the winter.
Yeah. Oh, because springtime, it wouldn't have been anything strange.
I was just like, all right. So they were broken up, right? Jerry and Sheila, and he's refusing to go anywhere else. He said because he wanted to keep an eye on Sheila and her boyfriend and his kids.
How far was that protective order? I feel like him being on the property at all was a no.
So throughout this case and the things I'm going to tell you about Jerry, just understand that Sheila keeps bringing him back because she says that she loves him and he's
the father of her children.
yeah, and that the kids really love their dad.
Well, he's just right outside. You can see him when you take the dog out. What does he do when he's just sitting in the car? Does he get Wi-Fi out there?
Sure doesn't. But they brought the trailer park to that middle-class neighborhood, and the cops were frequently called to the house. There were constant shouting matches. One of their constant fights was over the children, because Jerry wanted to be strict with the kids, and Sheila was more on the side of kids should be carefree and able to run free and come and go as they please. A neighbor said it wouldn't be surprising for the neighborhood to see their youngest child, Jeremy, just wandering across the street in his diaper.
How old is he?
Well, he's in a diaper, so I'd say 2 or under.
Oh, he could be special needs and be 12. I don't know.
He's not. He was a toddler. Not wanting to take no for an answer from his baby mama, Jerry got into an argument with Sheila. Jerry and Sheila's altercation had apparently escalated, and some of the neighbors decided to get involved and attempt to de-escalate the argument.
Is he armed?
In response to the neighbors getting themselves involved, Jerry began chasing after 3 of the male neighbors with a gas-powered chainsaw.
Oh. He saw Texas Chainsaw Massacre too many times. Where did he get a chainsaw? He's living in the car.
I'm guessing he picked it up. It doesn't sound like this place, like they kept it clean and tidy. I'm guessing he just picked it up or went and grabbed it. Thankfully, nobody was injured. Well, no one except Jerry.
Because he fell on it?
Jerry ended up being subdued when someone gave him a good old whack from behind with a shovel.
What's with all the yard tools out?
Well, and then the menfolk held him down until the police arrived, and Jerry was arrested for felony domestic assault, but it was reduced again to a misdemeanor, and he was sentenced to 10 years probation. I was disappointed on that for Texas, because this is the second time this feller's had a...
He didn't get 10 years of probation when he stabbed someone?
Well, aside from that, he just took a chainsaw and chased people around the neighborhood. It's not Halloween. He's not going to do any jail time.
Well, he's the only one who sustained an injury, too.
And that here in the U.S., we love to give violent people the opportunity to try again.
Well, they didn't get to do it the first time.
Or the second.
And he done got a head injury with that shovel.
Sure did. Jerry would work a variety of jobs. He did landscaping for cash. He said he was a mechanic, which made me kind of chuckle that he stays in broke down cars, but whatever. He's a mechanic.
He was putting in overtime.
He briefly worked at an IHOP as a short order cook, but he was quickly fired from that job due to his volatile temper. He was such a scary feller that a fellow IHOP coworker named Marla, I think...
used his forehead as a skillet?
Well, I think she's the person that filed the complaints about Jerry's outburst that led to him being fired. Because she ended up calling police to let him know that her 1991 Chevy broke down. She's fine, but she ditched that shit because she feared for her life after Jerry was fired, and she was fleeing the state of Texas to get as far away from Jerry as possible.
I thought you were going to say because it broke down in the parking lot and he's moved in.
No, but I feel like that would have been a valid excuse as well.
This son of a bitch figured because it was broke down, it was new housing.
Well, Jerry would also refuse to pay his $300 in child support for his 3 children, which he got off real cheap on that one. He would serve a month in jail for that. The only reason I point that out is he's done more jail time for lack of paying his child support than for assaulting people. But, well, I guess not, because he did the 60 days for the stabbing. Whatever.
That was probation.
No, and then he got 10 years probation for the chainsaw incident. Now, speaking of the chainsaw incident, Jerry was on probation and being a good boy for about 2 years, and I use good boy loosely because in that time, that's when he chased off the IHOP coworker. After about 2 years of probation, he was like, 10 years is entirely too long to behave, and he decided he'd go ahead and stop attending the required probation meetings. So in 2003, his probation was revoked, and he was sent to prison, where he sat for the next about 18 months to 2 years, and he was released on April 12th, 2005. At this point, Jerry is now 34 years old. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, upon Jerry's release from prison, he went back to living with Sheila and her parents. But while Jerry was in prison, Sheila's parents and Sheila and the kids moved to Zion, Illinois.
Did Sheila move back with her parents because her and her boyfriend broke up and the boyfriend's mom owned her house at that point?
Probably. So they moved from Texas while he was in prison to Illinois. Jerry and Sheila, they were corresponding with each other. After briefly being out of prison, Sheila and her parents allowed Jerry to come live with them when he got released because she loved him.
Hey.
Jerry was doing his best to adapt to being a father to now older children. Jerry was the disciplinarian and always had been. The kids would literally only listen to him. I think it wasn't because he was a disciplinarian. I think it was because he's a scary ass dude. But if Sheila would tell the kids to stop, they wouldn't listen. Everybody that knew this dysfunctional family knew the kids only behaved if Jerry was present. Now, like I said, we're in 2005. Jerry was newly released from jail from that probation violation. Now we're going to fast forward nearly a month later to Mother's Day, which is May 8th, 2005. Jerry's daughter Laura is now 8 years old. She had her BFF and her neighbor, a little girl named Krystal Tobias. Krystal is 9. The girls love to pick flowers and ride their bikes. And on Mother's Day, the girls decided to go ride double on Laura's bike to a nearby park that Jerry had told Laura she could not go to. A little bit about this park. It's called Beulah Park. It was not a good place. It was known for the local teens that would get drunk there. There were drug deals that went down there. People would often get jumped and beat up, and their wallets would be stolen. It's just not a good place to go.
Why did they want to go there?
They're 8 and 9. They don't have any idea. You know what I mean? They're like, because they're little girls and they just wanted to ride their bikes on the trails. It's like my kid, my 8-year-old. He doesn't know any different.
You wouldn't send him to a park on trails either.
I sure wouldn't, but they didn't send him the girls either. The girls decided to go do it on their own.
But I feel like if they are close enough to ride their bikes over there, they're close enough that they also don't live in a good area.
Pretty much. Eventually, panic sets in around 8:50 p.m. when Krystal had not returned home. She was expected home nearly 2 hours prior.
How do they panic at 8:50? Wouldn't you be panicking at like 6 or 7?
Yeah, I would. But then they waited till about 8:50 and then they called the police and a search begins for 8-year-old Laura Hobbs and 9-year-old Krystal Tobias. Search parties are put together. Everybody's looking for the missing girls. Now, Sheila's father, Arthur, and Jerry were searching together for the girls. They searched throughout the night. The petrified men were searching that local park at this point. Now, that was Sunday. We've trickled into the wee hours of Monday morning, and Arthur was looking down a ravine when he spotted Laura's bike down in the brush. Before Arthur could process what he was seeing, he heard Jerry start screaming that he found the girls. He found his baby girl, and she was dead. Arthur was horrified at the sight of his 8-year-old granddaughter and her 9-year-old friend laying lifeless a few yards off a wooded bike path near their home. He began crying and shouting, "No, no, they're not." Sadly, both Krystal and Laura had been found lying side by side. Their little baby faces were bloodied, and they'd been brutally beaten. Each little girl was stabbed repeatedly in their necks and faces, and then they were left to die. Also, both little girls had been raped, and their shoes were oddly placed neatly next to their bodies.
That's weird.
Right? The next day, police arrested Jerry for the murders because the way they saw it, they looked for the girls. Nobody found their little bodies, but Jerry found them.
Mm.
And after a grueling interrogation that stretched over 24 hours, the grieving father finally caved and gave a tearful confession to the police, admitting to the beatings and brutal murders of his 8-year-old daughter Laura and her 9-year-old friend Krystal. Jerry told officers that he was already angry with Sheila before he went to the park to find the girls. Laura had apparently stolen $40 the week before, and she was supposed to be grounded. But since Sheila never told the kids no, she let Laura go to the park even after Jerry had told her no. He arrived to the park around 4:30 p.m. and became more livid with Laura because she refused to return home from the park. He told officers he lost his temper when Laura outright refused to obey him, and when he grabbed her, Jerry then told officers when he grabbed her, she grabbed him back, and they started hitting each other, and that's why he began punching his 8-year-old daughter. She started it.
All right.
During this chaos, Krystal, the friend, pulled a small knife with a 4 to 6 inch blade.
Oh, the fuck?
Yeah, or in Texas speak, it's what's known as a potato knife. But she supposedly pulled out this knife and started swinging it at the already fuming man. He said he then punched Laura and she was only briefly unconscious, and that's when Jerry said he began punching Krystal a few times. Then he snatched the knife from her. Now that he has the knife, he began stabbing Krystal, and while he was stabbing Krystal, he said Laura began to wake up, so he stabbed her too.
And then he just decided to rape their bodies?
He didn't admit to the rapes. So, Laura had 20 stab wounds. She was stabbed in her abdomen, her neck, and 1 stab wound in each eye. Krystal was stabbed 11 times. The state announced that they were going for the death penalty for Jerry. Apparently, not only were the girls both brutally beaten and viciously stabbed, but then there was the semen that was found on and in the little girls. So once Jerry was in front of the judge, he was like, "I'm not guilty. The police coerced a confession out of me." So long story short, the judge reviews all the notes.
Well, it's 2005. Can't they DNA?
We're getting there. So the judge found that the police did not coerce Jerry's confession and the trial was to move forward. He would be held without bond because the prosecutors pointed out that Jerry had a history of violence and the fact that he even admitted he was angry with his daughter. She was supposed to be at home and he had to go track her down. And they also pointed out that Jerry frequently carried a knife on him. He actually had a knife on him when he was arrested. And he had a previous arrest for stabbing his neighbor. The idea that Jerry felt threatened by a 9-year-old with a knife, or that a 9-year-old who never carried a knife before would all of a sudden start carrying a knife on her, it was all too much for the state. And they were just like, yeah, we're going to go ahead and throw this piece of shit in jail, and you can wait for your trial, no bail. After Jerry was charged with the murders, Arthur, Sheila's father, he stood by Jerry, which is more than Sheila did. Sheila packed her bags and moved away with the kids. Arthur said that he didn't believe that Jerry could do such a thing to his own daughter and her friend because it was just too awful to be true.
All right.
Meanwhile, they were in no rush to push forward with the trial because Jerry was in prison. He's not going anywhere, and he admitted to it. So the urgency to go through with the trial was just not there. Jerry was left sitting in prison, claiming he was innocent while awaiting to be tried for beating and stabbing 9-year-old Krystal to death and stabbing and beating his 8-year-old daughter, Laura, to death. Jerry would sit in prison for 5 years awaiting his trial, and during this time, in August of 2007, so roughly 2 years just sitting in jail, it was confirmed that the semen found on the girls was not a match to Jerry, but the prosecutors said, "I don't care. I don't know why it doesn't match Jerry's DNA, but I'm not worried about it. Jerry's the killer. He admitted to it. He's going to stay in prison, period." It was July of 2010 when the DNA that was on and in Laura and Krystal was a confirmed match to DNA recovered from a murdered woman and an attempted murdered victim, both of whom were raped. So, yeah, Jerry's left sitting in jail saying, "I didn't do it." All of a sudden, the DNA that's found on the little girls is found on other victims.
That's a bombshell.
Sure is. And that's where I tell you, this is part 1. Next week, I've got part 2 for you. But that's all I got for this week.
You son of a bitch. Thank you for listening to Homicide Hobbies. I'm Claire.
I'm Andy.
Follow us each week to get your fix of the atrocities that occur in true crime. And don't forget to tell people about us and rate us if you like us. But don't rate us if you didn't. Just change the channel.